Hello my friends, I've been wanting to get to this video for a little bit now because last week I went on a vacation with my family. We had a great time in New York City, and of course I brought along a couple of handheld game systems, these two little buddies here, the Nintendo Switch OLED and the Steam Deck, and so I've got some micro reviews, some mini reviews of 5 games that I played while I was traveling. Let's start with the Steam Deck and Returnal, which I didn't know for sure was going to run all right on the Steam Deck. I got early code, so I got it just before it released. And I've noticed that since I've been playing it on the Steam Deck, now it has a not supported symbol on the Steam Deck, but I still am able to play it, which is weird. And it doesn't run optimally. It's certainly not going to be confused with how beautifully it runs on the PlayStation 5, but it is amazing to be able to take this moody, eerie, evocative sci-fi experience that reminds me of Ridley Scott's Alien and of course the Metroid Prime games. It's such an incredible experience. You play this astronaut that crash lands and is trying to figure out the mystery and is chased by all kinds of really demonic creatures, has to deal with them, and then you recognize that you're seeing copies of yourself, and so you're reliving that. There's a Groundhog Day kind of vibe to it, so there's a roguelite kind of element where you're trying to get as far as you can with the life that you have, and of course you pick up all kinds of goodies and gadgets and weapons and intelligence, so you start to understand the worlds and the enemies that you're going to experience while you're playing the game. And what's cool is that every time you start your run again, the world has been shifted a little bit. The building blocks that make up each of the levels have changed, so it's an incredibly addictive and profound experience. It was one of my favorite PlayStation 5 games when it was released in 2021, and it remains incredibly compelling. I've also played it on the PC here. I've got an Alienware R12 with a 3070 card in it, and I played it in ultra-wide mode, and it's so cinematic and gorgeous. So there's really no comparison playing it on a big TV, you know, with powerful hardware, comparing it to the Steam Deck. But still, it was amazing to be on a plane playing this game and getting lost in this world and running around and being just bombarded by the enemy types. Because at its core, it's got a very arcade kind of sensibility. That's the Housemarque hallmark. That's the kind of game that they had been making for years and years, and they've applied all of that learning into this more action-oriented role-playing kind of vibe with this moody sci-fi vibe. It's an amazing game. I recently called Metroid Prime Remastered a masterpiece, and I have this sort of similar vibe with Returnal. It's edging closer and closer. I would suggest that you play this on, you know, the most powerful hardware that you can play it on, but it is still a treat to play it on the Steam Deck. The game itself, though, extraordinary. 9.5 out of 10. The other game I played on the Steam Deck is a game called Gigabash, and this is a monster battling game. And the reason why I wanted to dive back into this is because of Jeffrey L. Wilson's Buried Treasure that he shot for us for the Rocket and Reagan Awards. I liked this game when I first played it. I actually streamed it on our Twitch channel, and it was really fun. It's all of these archetypes, these monster archetypes, a giant Yeti, a giant sort of human Ultraman-looking character, of course, lots of Godzilla likes. But what is cool about this game is that the developers actually licensed Godzilla characters. So you've got Mechagodzilla and other characters that are thrown into the mix here, and there's all kinds of incredible special effects and cool environmental effects, which I really dig, like lava will come into a village. Of course, you're destroying cities all over the place. There are a bunch of mini games that you can play in this as well, so it's got a kind of a Mario Party kind of vibe to it, or a Smash Brothers vibe to it as well. It's incredibly easy to play. It's very fun, and you can set up your multiplayer gaming with up to 4 different players. You can play against the computer, which was what I was able to do on the plane and in the hotel room. Incredibly addictive experience, and I always see this game on sale on Steam as well, so it's a great pickup and it runs beautifully on the Steam Deck. I'm going to give Gigabash an 8 out of 10. Over on the Nintendo Switch, I played Jeff Minter's latest game. It's called AkaR, and it's based on a prototype Atari arcade game, which you can actually play on Digital Eclipse's Atari 50 collection, which I also have on my Nintendo Switch. So I was able to play the original game, which is kind of obtuse and weird and hard to understand, and then I was able to jump into Jeff Minter's game, which is hard to understand and weird, but it's beautiful and psychedelic with all these colorful vector graphics and crazy power-ups and weird sound effects. Jeff Minter is such an interesting developer. He kind of works on his own, or with his own aesthetic and his own ideas. The first time I was introduced to his work was Tempest 2000 for the Jaguar, which became my favorite game for that console. It's one of my favorite games, period. It's my favorite game game in the Atari 50 collection as well. So I've always had my eye on Jeff Minter's work. He also did Space Giraffe. He's dabbled with VR and other kinds of things. So he likes to come at games and create his own vibe, his own aesthetic, and you can kind of point his work out from other developers very quickly and very easily. And AkaR is a difficult game to kind of encapsulate. It's kind of like a tower defense game or an inverse of Tempest in a way, where you play this ram or goat head thing and you're shooting bombs at different enemies, but you're not trying to like shower bombs. You're trying to use your bombs judiciously, so you create all of these cool combos, because every time you destroy an enemy with a bomb, it creates a shockwave and destroys another enemy as well. So there's a little missile command kind of vibe to that, which is really cool. But then there are also enemy types that need to be shot down, so you hold down on a button and you're firing like a machine gun, and then you're picking up power-ups and all kinds of different abilities to help you along the way. There's also an elevator mechanic where you drop down to a floor below and you've got all of these different aliens kind of attacking you as well. And you're trying to survive for as long as you possibly can and get the highest score that you possibly can. So it's definitely got a retro arcade vibe and sensibility to it, but it's so funky and cool with all of the Jeff Minter kind of flourishes that you come to expect out of his work. I don't know if this game's for everybody, but it certainly spoke to me, and it was really fun to trip out and play this game on the plane. Had a big smile on my face. For AkaR, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I also played Tales of Symphonia Remastered on the Nintendo Switch, reuniting with Lloyd Irving and his cast of colorful comrades. There is a chosen one kind of storyline that is central to this experience, but what makes the Tales games kind of special, and Tales of Arise was the most recent modern one, which was excellent, and it won all kinds of acclaim, sold really well, deservedly so. It's a great game. But what you do in the Tales games is there's an element of traditional JRPG turn-based mechanic stuff in there, but the combat is in real time, and so you have to position yourself properly and use your weapons and time those things out properly. And so getting into combat is actually really fun. There are a lot of random battles that you're going to get into just traipsing around the landscape and going into the forests and mountains and things like that. Enemies will just pop up, and what was incongruous is that sometimes you'll see a cute little beastie roaming around the land, and then you'll get into a battle, but that beastie that you saw isn't a part of the collection that you're fighting. So I thought that was a bit weird. There are a lot of throwbacks to a different time, for sure. At one point, a teacher puts kids over the knee and spanks them. We see an old lady getting whipped by these evil Empire type dudes. It's kind of a weird mixture of super cute big-headed characters and some darker types of themes, but the gameplay is solid. It's still fun to play. It's just that there are a couple things here. Back on the PlayStation 3, Bandai Namco released Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, which had Dawn of a New World as well as the original Tales of Symphonia, so 2 games in one, and it's kind of disappointing that we didn't get that remastered for Nintendo Switch. And the other thing is that we've got a lot of recent remasters. I'm looking at you, Live Alive, and Metroid Prime Remastered, that have just gone above and beyond and blown us away. Even Bandai Namco's own remastered games of the Klonoa games and Pac-Man World last year were both really well done. This one feels okay. It just doesn't sort of go the extra mile. I think longtime fans of Tales games are going to love diving back into this on the Nintendo Switch. It didn't blow me away. There are a lot of really cool RPGs to play on this platform, and there are a lot of games that I would rather play. Still, it's really cool that we've got this on our Nintendo Switch. I'm going to give Tales of Symphonia Remastered a 7 out of 10. And finally, the game that I think made the biggest impression on me that I played on the road is Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. This is the Square Enix game that compiles all eras of Final Fantasy music and lets you play through them. And Square Enix actually sent me the Deluxe Edition code, which is going to have different stages of DLC attached to it. So there's just like a huge assortment of music. There'll be stuff from Live Alive and Octopath Traveler, but just even at the base level, when you jump into this and you get all of these different eras of Final Fantasy music that you can play through and all of these different characters, there's an RPG kind of component to this where you're leveling up and you're mixing and matching with these characters based on your predilections, so you can have these characters from whatever era of Final Fantasy play together. and you're battling monsters and getting into boss fights and stuff that are very familiar, but you're doing everything to the timing of the music. So you'll have lines that cross the screen and you're holding a button down and releasing at the right time, or hitting button commands in time with the beat of the music. And of course, there are different stages of difficulty, and the higher stages are insane. I found that I couldn't pay attention to all the cool artwork that was happening. It's all very stylized. It's not like a full one-to-one recreation of the art from every era of Final Fantasy. They have this kind of like a puppet look to these different characters, which I liked. I thought the art was really cool because it's also an interpretation of all of these different looks and eras from Final Fantasy across the years. So I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't pay attention to the battles or see all of the cool animations and stuff like that, because I was so focused on all the line work and all the note work that I had to deal with in order to stay on time with the music, because that's how you win. You progress by defeating and hitting the right sort of commands at the right time. It's just like any other rhythm game that way. But you get all of this incredibly lush, orchestral Final Fantasy music, and I just was blown away by that. I had AirPods Pro 2s in, I was on the plane completely entranced, there was noise canceling, and here I was just lost in these many eras of Final Fantasy, and I was having such an incredible time. It was completely hypnotic and so beautiful, and honestly, such a great gift, I think, to the Final Fantasy fans out there, and it certainly got my wheels turning on other game series that could do something similar, maybe not exactly the same in terms of gameplay, but I just love this idea of playing and celebrating through the music like this, like an interactive kind of music escape. And I thought of Metal Gear Solid would be incredible. Of course, I thought about James Bond and all the amazing music that the James Bond movies have had, which could be turned into a James Bond interactive music game. That would be amazing. But Square Enix nailed it. Of course, there's been earlier editions and versions of the Theatrhythm games in the past, and those have also all been good. It's just really cool to have it on a modern system like the Nintendo Switch, where you can get lost in portable mode or blow it up to the big screen. This is incredible, and I think it really elevates for the super fans out there. But if you're a parent and you've got a kid that might just be starting to dabble with role-playing games, maybe consider this one, because the extra benefit might be that they are exposed to orchestral music and the classical kind of music and all of these incredible themes, and they might want to go to a symphony with you or something, you know? What a great, great game experience this is. I'm going to give Theatrhythm Final Bar Line a 9.5 out of 10. All right, so there you go. Those are 5 micro reviews of games that I played while I traveled. I had a great time with all of them, and man, I feel incredibly spoiled that I get to travel with a Nintendo Switch and a Steam Deck these days. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back soon with some fresh content for you, and I'm always streaming over at twitch.tv/EPN, so we'll see you there. We'll see you soon, and until then, play forever.